I have told this story maybe 40 times now, to my grandchildren, to recruits, once to a human historian who wrote it down wrong and made me sound braver than I was. So let me tell it again, properly this time, the way it happened. My name is Kesh Voruna. I was, in those days, a third-rank observer for the Karn Ascendancy, and on the day everything changed, I was standing in a food hall on Meridian Station, watching a small human female eat her lunch. That's it, that's the whole beginning. A girl, a tray, a spoon. I have seen warships crack open like eggs. I have seen a moon get pushed out of its orbit by people who were angry. And still, when I close my eyes, it's the spoon I remember. Let me back up. You have to understand what we were back then. The Karn, my people. We came from a world called Dreeth. If you have never heard of it, good. It means you have never had to survive there. Dreeth had 3 sons and no mercy. The days would boil the water out of your skin. The nights would freeze the blood in your veins. The ground moved. Not sometimes, always. There was a saying among my people that a Karn child learned to run before they learned to crawl, because crawling got you eaten. We were proud of this. Gods, we were proud. The whole galaxy had a name for worlds like ours, Deathworlds, places where the gravity crushed, the air poisoned, the predators hunted in the dark with more teeth than sense. Most species came from soft worlds, gentle gravity, clean air, blue skies that never tried to kill you. Not us. There were 9 Deathworld species in the known galaxy back then. 9. And we had formed a thing, a loose alliance, more of a mutual respect society than a government. We called it the Conquered of Hard Places. Grim name, we liked grim names. The Conquered had a simple belief, and the belief was this: the universe is soft and we are not, and therefore the universe belongs to us. We had never been wrong about that, not once. The soft worlds paid us tribute, not because we forced them mostly, because it was cheaper than fighting us. When the Conquered's fleets appeared over your peaceful little planet, you did not resist. You negotiated. You gave us what we asked for, and we let you keep breathing your clean, easy air. For 9,000 years, this was simply how the galaxy worked. And then someone found Earth. I want to be fair to us. I want you to understand we were not stupid. We were arrogant, yes, but arrogance and stupidity are different animals. When the survey drones came back from the human system, the Conquered Council actually got excited. Genuinely excited, in the way you get excited when you find something that might be a worthy opponent after 10,000 years of easy wins. Because Earth read as a death world. I saw the data myself. I was junior then, barely allowed in the room, standing at the back with the other observers while the elders passed the readouts around. Gravity heavy, not the heaviest but heavy. Atmosphere, a corrosive oxygen mix that would rust metal and burn most galactic lungs. Whether that killed thousands of its own inhabitants every single year, storms, floods, fires, freezes, tectonic activity, volcanoes, a magnetic field so violent it needed to shield the whole planet from its own star or everything on the surface would cook. And the life, oh the life. Every readout of Earth's biosphere came back the same way. Aggressive, toxic, armored, fanged. The planet was covered, completely covered in things that stung, bit, crushed, poisoned, or ate. Even the plants fought back. We found records of Earth plants that produced neurotoxins strong enough to stop a Karn heart, and the humans grew these in their food gardens. For decoration. The council was thrilled. Coordinator Sethun, a huge old Karn with a scar across his face from a Dreethite sand deal, actually laughed out loud. Finally, he said, a real one. We assumed, you see, that a death world would produce a death world people. That was the whole theory of the Conquered. Hard place, hard people. Dreeth made the Karn. The acid seas of Vol made the Valak. The crushed gravity of Huron made the Hureni, who could snap a soft worlder's spine by shaking their hand. So a world like Earth, A world that scored higher on the lethality index than 6 of our 9 homeworlds. That world would produce monsters. We were half right. We just had the direction wrong. We thought the monsters would be loud, angry, obviously terrifying. We did not understand, yet, what a truly dangerous thing looks like when it is at peace. The first contact was handled by the Valak because their fleet was closest. And it went, I will be honest, it went strangely. Not badly, strangely. The Valak did what we always did. They arrived in force, 12 warships in orbit. They broadcast the standard conquered greeting, which is really more of a warning, and they waited for the fear. The humans did not fear. They also did not attack. That was the confusing part. When a soft world sees our fleet, they cower. When a hard world meets us, the rare times that's happened between conquered members, there's a bristling, a testing, a violence looking for an excuse. The humans did neither. They sent up a small vessel, unarmed, with a delegation, and they said, and I am quoting the actual transcript, which I have read more times than I can count, they said, "Welcome to our system. You've come a long way. Are you hungry?" The Valak captain did not know what to do with this. There was no protocol for it. Are you hungry? It sounded like a threat, honestly. Among the Valak, offering to feed someone can mean you intend to feed them to something. But it wasn't a threat. The humans they just wanted to feed us. It was the strangest, most disarming thing, and I think, looking back, it was the first warning we all ignored. Because here is a truth I only understood much later. The most dangerous predator is not the one who is always hungry. It is the one who is so completely, so casually secure at the top of the food chain that it can afford to be kind. We did not know that yet. We thought kindness was weakness. Everyone does until it isn't. So the conquered did what the conquered always did when it found something interesting. It arranged a summit. The idea was to bring the human leadership to neutral ground, size them up, establish dominance early, and fold them into the tribute system before they got any ideas. Standard procedure. We'd done it 100 times. The neutral ground was Meridian Station. Meridian was a conquered facility, one of our diplomatic stations, built for exactly this kind of thing. It orbited a dead star far from anyone's territory. It was big, cold, deliberately intimidating. The corridors were tall enough for a Hureni to stand at full height, which meant a human had to crane their neck just to see the ceiling. Everything about the station was designed to make visitors feel small. I was assigned there, third-rank observer. My job was to watch the humans, take notes, and report on their weaknesses so our negotiators could exploit them. I remember the day they arrived. I remember it the way you remember the day before a war, even though none of us knew yet that it was that day. The human delegation was small. That surprised everyone. When the conquered holds a summit, we bring an army disguised as an entourage. Hundreds of aides, guards, advisors, all there to project power. The Valak alone brought 240. The humans brought 19. 19, for a first contact with the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. 19 people got off that shuttle, and one of them was a child. I saw them come through the receiving hall. I was up on the observation gallery with the other observers, looking down. They were smaller than I expected. That was the first thing. On the readouts, humans looked formidable, dense, muscled, built low and strong. And they were physically more solid than most soft-worlders. But next to a Karn, next to Hureni, they looked almost delicate. Soft brown and pink and tan skin with no scales, no plates, no natural armor of any kind. Fragile little hands. Eyes set forward like a predator's, yes, but small. Everything about them small. The Hureni observer next to me, her name was Grot, made a sound in her throat that meant contempt. "This is the Deathworld people," she said. "I could break one over my knee." I said nothing, but I remember thinking she was probably right. Then the child stepped out. The girl was maybe 8 years old. I learned later she was the daughter of one of the human negotiators, brought along, and this baffled all of us, because there was a school break and no one to watch her at home. Read that again. They brought a child to the most dangerous diplomatic meeting in galactic history because of a scheduling problem. At the time we assumed it was a message, a show of confidence. Look how safe we feel we brought our young. It seemed insane, but also, weirdly, like the kind of insane a strong species might do. The truth was dumber and, I now think, far more terrifying. They brought her because they simply were not afraid. It genuinely did not occur to them that a room full of apex predators from 9 Deathworlds might be dangerous to their little girl. Her name was Maddie. I will never forget her name. She came off that shuttle holding a stuffed toy, a soft fabric animal, something with round ears, and she looked up at the enormous cold hall, at the towering aliens, at the Hureni guards with their crushing hands, and the Valak diplomats leaking faint acid vapor, and the Karn negotiators, my own people, all fang and scale and menace. And she yawned. She yawned. She was bored. She'd been on a shuttle a long time and she was tired and hungry, and this collection of galactic nightmares did not register to her as anything worth being awake for. Grot beside me went very still. Did it just, she started. Yes, I said. It's not afraid. No, I said, it doesn't seem to be. And something cold moved through me. I couldn't name it yet, but I felt it that first day standing on the gallery. The child was not brave. Bravery requires fear. You cannot be brave if you are not afraid, and that girl was not afraid, and there was only one kind of creature in all my experience that felt no fear in a room full of predators. The kind that had never, in all its evolutionary history, needed to. The first 2 days of the summit were, on the surface, normal. There were speeches. There were displays of power. The Conquered did its usual routine, the show of fleets on the big display, the recitation of conquered worlds, the not-quite threats. The humans watched all of it politely. That was the thing that started to unnerve the negotiators. Politely. Humans watched our terrifying displays the way you might watch a child show you a drawing. Nodding, attentive, a little indulgent. When Coordinator Sethun listed the Conquered's military might, the fleets, the Deathworld soldiers, the 10,000 years of dominance, the lead human negotiator, a graying man named Okonkwo, simply said, "That's very impressive. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for sharing that." Like we were a nervous person who'd over-explained something. By the second day, the negotiators were rattled. I could see it in the reports. The humans wouldn't threaten back. They wouldn't cower. They wouldn't play the game at all. They just kept being pleasant and asking questions about our worlds, and this drove Sethun to fury, offering us food. Always the food. The humans had brought a great deal of it. They kept trying to share it. It became a running problem. The medical teams had to keep intervening, because half of what the humans ate casually would kill a conquered citizen outright. That was where the trouble really started, the food. Because on the third day, at midday, the humans stopped for their meal. And the little girl, Maddie, sat down in the great cold hall with a tray, at a table too tall for her, swinging her legs because they didn't reach the floor. And 9 Deathworld leaders watched her eat. I need to explain something about food, or none of what happened next will make sense. Every species in the galaxy is shaped by what it can eat. This is deep biology. On a soft world, food is easy and abundant, so soft-worlders are gentle. On a hard world, food is scarce and fights back, so we are not. We knew this. It was central to our whole understanding of the universe. But there is a spectrum even among us, and there are limits. Even the hardest Deathworld species has things it cannot eat, poisons that kill us, textures that choke us, temperatures that burn us. Every one of us, no matter how tough, lives inside a box of what our bodies can tolerate. The Valak who breathe acid cannot survive pure water. It's a solvent that ruptures their cells. The Hureni, crushing strong, have delicate digestion and eat only soft paste. Even we Karn, who can chew rock if we must, cannot handle certain plant toxins. We all assumed humans had a box too. Everyone does. Their box, it turned out, was the whole galaxy. Maddie was hungry and her mother had packed her a lunch, and she opened the container and began to eat, and the leaders of 9 Deathworlds slowly, one by one, stopped talking, because they were watching what a human child considered ordinary food. The medical officer assigned to observe the humans, a careful, thin Valak named Isith, was standing near me on the gallery, and Isith had a scanner, and Isith began, very quietly, to make a sound I had never heard a Valak make. It was a whimper. "What?" said Grot. "What is it?" Isith couldn't speak at first. Then, in a shaking voice, the Valak began to read the scan aloud. The girl had in her simple child's lunch a red fruit. Sweet, she seemed to enjoy it. The scan showed it contained a compound that, in the amount she ate, would stop a Valak heart in under a minute. She ate 3 pieces without slowing down. She had a strip of dried meat. The scan couldn't identify the animal, only that it had been an apex predator on its own part of Earth, a thing that hunted in packs and could bring down prey 10 times its size. The humans had hunted it to the edge of extinction, farmed it, and now fed strips of it to their children as a snack. She had a small container of what the humans called yogurt, which the scan identified as a colony of living bacteria that the humans had deliberately cultivated and were now eating alive by the billions. On any conquered world, deliberately consuming live microorganisms was how you died of 100 plagues. The humans did it on purpose, for the flavor, for their health. She had a green plant stalk that contained a paralytic. She dipped it in a sauce made from fermented beans, fermented, meaning rotted, meaning the humans took food, let it decay under controlled conditions until it filled with compounds that would sicken any of us, and then called the result a delicacy. And she had at the very end, wrapped in bright paper, a small brown cube. The scan hit that cube and Isith actually dropped the scanner. I picked it up, I read it myself. I didn't believe it, so I read it 3 times. The brown cube was a stimulant, a powerful one. It contained a compound that was, molecule for molecule, nearly identical to a nerve agent the Karn military had once tried to develop as a weapon and abandoned because it was too dangerous to store safely. The humans put it in a candy. They gave the candy to children. For a treat. I want you to picture the hall. 9 Deathworld leaders, the most powerful, most feared beings in the galaxy. Sethun of the Karn, whose people run before they crawl. Vesorn of the Valak, who breathes acid. Old Huron of the Hureni, who could crush any of us with one hand. And the others Dreeth and Val and Huron and 6 more hard, proud, terrible worlds. And they are all watching in dead silence, as a small pink human child eats a lunch that contains 6 different substances capable of killing every one of them. And she is doing it while swinging her legs and humming to herself, and occasionally talking to a fabric toy with round ears. She was not eating to intimidate us. That's what broke something in the room. If she'd been doing it deliberately, if she'd been staring us down while she ate poison, we could have understood that. That would have been a threat display. We do threat displays, we respect them. But she wasn't looking at us at all. We were furniture to her. She ate her heart-stopping, plague-carrying, nerve-agent lunch the way you'd eat any lunch, because to her it was any lunch. It was just food. It was just Tuesday. And every leader in that hall did the same terrible math at the same time. If this small, soft, unarmed child casually consumes 6 things that would each individually kill us, without noticing, without effort, because her species evolved on a world so lethal that this is simply what food is there. Then what, in the name of every dead god, is a full-grown human capable of? Vesorn of the Valak was the first to break. The Valak are not a cowardly people. I want to be clear about that. They breathe acid. They are hard folk from a hard world. But the Valak are also, of all of us, the most sensitive to poison because their biology is so specialized. And Vesorn had been watching Isith's scanner readout scroll across a side display, item after item, kill dose after kill dose. Vesorn stood up, and in a voice that did not sound like a conquered leader at all, that sounded, honestly, like prey, Vesorn asked the human negotiator, Okonkwo, a question. That food, Vesorn said, the child's food, is that what a human eats when it is not trying to survive? Okonkwo looked over at Maddie. He smiled a fond, tired parental smile. That's just her lunch, he said. She's a picky eater, honestly. Half of it she won't even touch. Half of it? She wasn't even eating all of it. Vesorn made a sound and sat back down, and did not speak again for a long time. Here is what none of the humans understood in that moment, and what I have spent the rest of my life trying to explain to the humans I've met since. It was never about the food itself. The food was just the proof. The food was the readout, the data, the undeniable evidence of a thing we had gotten catastrophically, historically wrong. We had built our entire civilization, 9 civilizations, 10,000 years, the whole conquered of hard places, on the idea that we were the hardest things the universe had produced, that the Deathworlds made the strongest people, and we were the Deathworld people, and therefore the universe was ours. And now, watching this child, we understood 2 things at once, and both of them were unbearable. The first was that Earth was harder than any of our worlds. Not a little harder, vastly harder, so much harder that the humans didn't even register it as hard. To us, survival was a constant war. To them, the war was so long one that they'd forgotten it was ever a war at all. They packed the battlefield into a child's lunchbox and called it a snack. And the second thing, the thing that made old Huron of the Hureni put his crushing hands over his face, was the kindness. Because think about it. We were predators who'd survived. And what did surviving make us? Cruel, suspicious, grasping. We took tribute. We threatened. We built cold stations to make visitors feel small. Survival had made us mean, and we thought that meanness was strength. The humans had survived something far worse than we ever had. By all our logic, they should have been the cruelest, most terrible beings in the galaxy. They should have been monsters beyond our worst nightmares. Instead, they arrived with 19 people and a child and a great deal of food, and the first thing they said to the fleet that came to threaten them was, "Are you hungry?" They had climbed to the very top of the most lethal food chain that had ever existed, and it had made them gentle. That was the thing we could not survive learning. Because it meant the humans weren't gentle out of weakness. They were gentle out of a security so total, a dominance so complete, that they had nothing left to prove and no one left to fear. They were kind the way only the truly untouchable can afford to be kind. And we had come here to threaten them. I remember the exact moment I understood it personally, not as a conquered officer, as Kesh Voruna, a person. The girl finished her lunch. She'd left the fermented beans and half the meat, exactly as her father said she would. And then she looked up for the first time. She actually looked at us, at the towering hall of monsters, and she noticed old Huron of the Hureni, who was still sitting there with his hands over his face. And Maddie, 8 years old, thought he was sad. She didn't know he was terrified. She had no framework for a giant Deathworld leader being terrified, because she had never in her short life been in real danger from anything, because her people had killed all their monsters so long ago that fear had become almost theoretical to them. She just saw a big person who seemed upset. So she got down off her too-tall chair, and she walked across the cold, intimidating hall, past the Valak and the Karn and her own delegation who called after her quietly, and she went right up to Huron, this creature who could have crushed her without effort, and she held up the last thing from her lunch. The brown cube, the candy, the one with the compound like a nerve agent in it. And she said, "You can have my chocolate if you're sad. It always makes me feel better." She was offering him poison, casually, kindly, because to her it was the nicest thing she had and he seemed sad and that's what you do. Huron of the Hureni, oldest of us, strongest of us, a leader who had personally cracked open 2 rebel moons in his youth, looked down at that small pink hand holding out a cube of weaponized kindness. And he began to weep. I had never seen a Hureni weep. I did not know they could. That was the end of the summit. Not officially. Officially, it took 3 more days of frantic, closed-door meetings among the conquered leaders. But really, it ended there in that hall with a child offering chocolate to a crying monster. I was in some of those closed-door meetings, by then, because third-rank observers were suddenly being asked to report on everything we'd seen. And I have never in my life witnessed anything like the panic in those rooms. These were the leaders of 9 Deathworlds, 10,000 years of dominance, and they sat in a cold room and argued about how to survive their own mistake. Because the mistake was enormous, do you see? We had come to Meridian to threaten humanity, to fold them into the tribute system, to establish dominance. We had, on the record in front of 19 human witnesses, listed our fleets and our conquests and our military might, and we had done it as a not-quite threat. We had shown our teeth to a species that ate our teeth for lunch. Sethun of the Karn, my own coordinator, the one who'd laughed and said finally, a real one, was gray. His scales had gone dull, the way a Karn's do under extreme stress. They will remember this, he kept saying. They will remember that we came to threaten them. When they are ready, when they turn their attention outward the way we always have, they will remember that the conquered of hard places came to their door and showed its fleets. Vassorn, still shaken, said the thing no one wanted to say. We cannot fight them. We have 9 fleets, someone objected. We have 9 fleets, Vassorn agreed. And we cannot fight them. You saw the child. You saw what an 8-year-old eats without noticing. Now imagine their soldiers. Imagine a people who evolved to be the deadliest thing on the deadliest world and who then had 10,000 years of peace to build machines. We came here to measure them. We measured a child. We did not measure the rest. And I, for one, do not want to. The room was silent. And then old Huron, who had not spoken since the girl gave him the chocolate, lifted his great head. Then we do not fight them, he said. We do the only thing left, the thing we have never done in 10,000 years. Which is, said Sethun. Huron's voice was very quiet. We ask them to spare us, he said. We go to them, not as the conquered of hard places, not as leaders, as what we truly are next to them, and we beg. You have to understand what a hard thing it was, what Huron suggested. We beg them 10,000 years, 9 Deathworlds. In all that time the conquered had never once asked for mercy. We gave mercy sometimes the way a strong hand gives a coin. We had never received it. The word for beg in the old Karn tongue is the same as the word for die with honor gone. To us they were the same thing. A Karn who begged was already dead. They just hadn't stopped moving yet. And Huron was proposing we all do it, together, on the record, in front of the humans. Sethun refused first. Of course he did. He was my coordinator and he was proud even for a Karn. No, he said. There has to be another way. We negotiate, we offer trade, we offer alliance, we do not crawl. You want to offer them alliance, said Huron, and there was something terrible and gentle in his voice. Sethun, old friend, what do we have that they want? What can the conquered of hard places offer to people who packed a Deathworld into a child's lunchbox and had room left over for a toy? Sethun had no answer. Fleets are museums to them, Huron went on. Our threats are the noise a small animal makes. Our tribute, they would not know what to do with it. They do not want our worlds. They have their own and theirs is worse and they love it. There is nothing we can give them. There is only one thing we can ask of them. And it is the thing we came here refusing to imagine we would ever need. Which is what? Sethun said, though I think by then he knew. Time, said Huron. We ask them to let us keep existing. We ask them to remember when their attention finally turns outward that when the conquered came to their door, some of us learned. We ask the strong to be kind to us the way the child was kind to me, because that is the only currency they trade in, kindness, and we have almost none of it saved up. I was there when they went to the humans. I will tell you exactly how it happened because the historians got this part wrong too, and it matters that it's told right. It was not a grand ceremony. That was the humans doing. The conquered wanted a formal setting, some dignity salvaged from the ruin, but when Okonkwo, the human negotiator, understood what the Deathworld leaders were asking for, he refused the ceremony. No, he said, not like that, not on some stage with cameras. If you want to talk to us, come and talk to us. We'll be at lunch. At lunch, he wasn't mocking us. I want to be clear. That took me years to understand, but he wasn't. The humans genuinely did not grasp the size of what was happening. To them, 9 terrifying alien leaders wanting to have a serious conversation was best handled the way they handled everything serious, over food together without armor. The human way of showing respect was to feed you and sit with you. They kept trying to do it. We kept not understanding. So the leaders of 9 Deathworlds went to a human meal. The humans had set up a long table in one of Meridian's smaller halls. They brought out their own food, and this is the part that still undoes me. They had prepared safe food for us. In the days since the summit began, the human medical team had been quietly studying what each conquered species could tolerate, and they had made us meals. Valak paste that wouldn't rupture. Hureni soft food warmed correctly. A Karn dish spiced the way we like that someone had clearly researched. They had spent their time learning what wouldn't hurt us, while we had spent hours listing our fleets. I saw Sethun look at that plate of Karn food, and I saw something break in him that no weapon had ever reached. They sat down. All of them. 9 Deathworld leaders and 19 humans at a long table, and the little girl Maddie was there too, back at her too-tall chair, swinging her legs. And Huron, because it was his idea, and because he was the oldest, and because he was the one she'd given the chocolate to, Huron was the one who spoke. He did not stand. He'd asked me quietly before we came in how humans showed submission, and I'd told him I didn't know. None of us did. They'd never submitted to anything. So he did the only thing he could think of. This enormous being, strong enough to crush any of us who had cracked open moons, he lowered his great head until it nearly touched the table, down below the level of the human's eyes. As low as his body would go, the humans went quiet. Even Maddie stopped swinging her legs. "We came to your door," Huron said, "to make you afraid." Okonkwo started to say something. Huron kept going gently because he had to get it all out. "That is the truth, and you deserve the truth. We are the conquered of hard places. 9 worlds that kill their own children before those children can walk. For 10,000 years we believed we were the hardest thing the universe had made, and we made the galaxy pay tribute to that belief. We came here to add you to that list. We showed you our fleets. We told you our conquests. We did it to frighten you." He lifted his head just enough to look at them. "And then we watched your child eat lunch." Somebody among the humans laughed softly, not unkindly, just baffled. They still didn't understand. "You do not know what you are," Huron said, and now his voice shook. "That is the thing I have come to understand these last days. You genuinely do not know. You think you are ordinary. You brought a child to a room full of predators because it did not occur to you that we could be a danger to her. And you were right, we could not. There is nothing in this galaxy that is a danger to you anymore. You killed it all so long ago that you forgot it was ever there. You climbed to the top of a mountain so terrible that the rest of us cannot even see its foothills, and at the top you found nothing left to fight. And it made you," his voice failed. He tried again. "It made you kind. That is the part we cannot bear. You survived worse than any of us, and it did not make you cruel. It made you the gentlest people I have ever met. Your child offered me the most dangerous thing she owned because she thought I was sad. And I understood in that moment that we had made a mistake so large it could end us. Because one day, not soon maybe, but one day you will look outward the way we always did. And you will remember who came to your door with threats. And I am here on behalf of 9 worlds to ask you." He lowered his head again all the way down. "Remember also that some of us learned. When that day comes, when you are ready to fill the galaxy, please spare us. Let the conquered of hard places keep existing in a universe that belongs to you. We were wrong and we know it now, and we are asking, we are begging for the mercy we never gave anyone. That is all. That is everything. There is nothing else we have to offer you but the truth that we were wrong. And then the leaders of 9 Deathworlds, one by one, lowered their heads to the table, even Sethun, my proud coordinator. Last of all, slowest of all, but he did it. He put his head down before the humans and he begged. There was a long silence. I have thought about that silence more than any other moment in my life, because everything hung in it. 9 civilizations, 10,000 years, all of it balanced on whatever the humans said next. And what happened was this: the humans were confused. Not cold, not triumphant, not vengeful, confused. They looked at each other, this table full of gentle, deadly people, and I could see them trying to work out what exactly they were being asked, and slowly, terribly, understanding that these 9 giants had their heads on the table because they were afraid of humanity. And the humans were horrified. Okonkwo stood up. Fast. He came around the table to Huron, and he did a thing that stopped my heart. He reached out and he touched the great bowed head, gently, the way you'd touch someone you were trying to comfort. "Hey," he said. "Hey, no, get up, please get up, you don't have to do that." "You do not understand," Huron said, not lifting his head. "No, I don't think we do," Okonkwo said. "But listen to me. Whatever you think we are, whatever this mountain is you think we climbed, we are not going to hurt you. We're never going to hurt you. You came to our door with your fleets, and honestly, we thought it was a little sad. 9 ships, 12 ships, it doesn't matter. We weren't afraid of you, but we didn't threaten you back, did we? We asked if you were hungry." He crouched down so he was level with Huron's lowered face. "That's who we are," he said. "Not because we're weak. You're right, we're not weak. We're the meanest thing that ever crawled out of the worst place there is, and we know it even if we don't talk about it. But that's exactly why we don't have to prove anything. We've got nothing to prove and no one to fear. So we feed people, we bring our kids along. We make safe food for strangers who came to threaten us because, why wouldn't we? What kind of monster wouldn't?" He put his hand back on Huron's head. "You didn't have to beg us for mercy," Okonkwo said, and his voice cracked a little. "You never had to. Mercy's not something you have to earn from us. It's just the water we swim in. It's the whole point of being strong. You climb all that way, you survive all that horror, and if the only thing you do with it is make more horror, then what was any of it for?" Huron lifted his head. And the little girl, Maddie, who had been watching all of this with her legs swinging, slid down off her chair again. She walked over. She looked at the 9 giant aliens with their heads coming up off the table, and at her father crouched down holding the big sad one's face, and she reached into her pocket. And she pulled out another chocolate, she'd been saving it. Kids do that. She held it up to Huron, the same offering, the weaponized kindness, the nerve agent candy she thought was the nicest thing in the world. "You can keep this one," she said. "So you have it for later, for when you're sad again." Huron, oldest of us, strongest of us, who had come here to beg for the survival of 9 worlds, took the little cube of poison in his enormous crushing hand, so carefully, like it was the most precious thing in the galaxy. Because it was. It was a child of the deadliest people who ever lived, giving away the most dangerous thing she owned, to a stranger, for no reason at all except that he seemed sad and she had it to give. That is what humanity is. I have spent my whole long life trying to explain it, and that is the closest I have ever come. That is the thing at the top of the terrible mountain, not a monster. A little girl with a spare chocolate saved in her pocket for when you're sad again. The conquered did not fall that day. That's the part people get wrong when they hear this story. They think it ends with humanity conquering us or with the Deathworlds destroyed. It doesn't. It ends with lunch. The humans wouldn't accept our tribute. They wouldn't accept our submission. Okonkwo got every one of those 9 leaders to lift their heads, and this is true. Made them all sit and eat the safe food the humans had prepared, and by the end of it old Huron was laughing at something a young human aide said, and the sound of a Huroni laughing is like boulders rolling downhill, and it filled that cold hall until the hall didn't seem cold anymore. The conquered of hard places still exists. We're still proud. We still love our terrible worlds, but we don't take tribute anymore. We stopped that within a year. It was Huron who pushed it through, and Sethun, my Sethun, who seconded it, and the reason they gave was simple. The reason was, We met something stronger than us, and it was kind, and we were ashamed. So we changed. That's what strength did to us once we finally saw it done right. It shamed us into being better. I'm very old now. Older than a Karn is supposed to get. I've watched humanity do exactly what Huron predicted: turn outward, spread through the galaxy, become the thing everyone measures themselves against. And Huron was right about that. But he was wrong about one thing. He thought we'd have to beg them to be spared. He thought when the humans came, they'd remember who threatened them and we'd need the mercy saved up. We never needed it, because they came the way they always come, not with fleets. With that same question at every door on every world for 10,000 more years now and counting. Are you hungry? I met a human child last week. Great-great-grandchild of someone. They visit our worlds now. They're not afraid of anything. They never will be. This one looked up at me, old scarred Karn, fang and plate, a monster by any soft measure, and this child was not afraid, and I understood at last that this is simply what they are, and it is the most beautiful and most humbling thing the universe ever made. The child offered me something from a small bright container, a chocolate. I took it. Of course I took it. My old heart can't handle it anymore, the stimulant, the compound like a nerve agent. One bite might kill me at my age. I ate it anyway. Some things are worth dying for. The Karn have always known that. We just spent 10,000 years being wrong about which things. It was the sweetest thing I ever tasted.